Welcome, welcome. I'm Andrew Berkshire. I'm here on the Game Over Network, and it's just a work-along stream. So feel free to chat. Feel free to bring up any topics you want to talk about. That's all good. But it's mostly just chill. So if you want to hang out, chat about stuff. I'm also live on Instagram right now, but I'm probably not going to be responding on Instagram just because it's on my phone. And I'm gonna focus more on the YouTube side and getting some work done. Hey, Keck Shows, how you doing, man? It's nice to see you. I've got so much stuff that I've got to do behind the scenes over the next little while here that I'm probably gonna do a little bit more of these hangout streams. I find they're usually pretty fun, and sometimes get a few people in. You do. I'm not too worried about it. Not really about trying to drive any traffic so much as it is just trying to be part of our community. Continue having fun while I have to do some work. And unfortunately, I do have to do a lot of work as the guy running this company and trying to make sure that everybody gets paid because you gotta kind of pay people. Gotta walk the walk after you talk the talk. It's a lot to do. Keck Shows, what are you up to these days? How you feeling, man? Actually, I shouldn't say man. I don't actually know. One of the things that I have to work on right now is we're dealing with EDC and we're trying to acquire some funding. And one of the things they need is an extra year of prognosticating our, how would you even reference it? Our cash flow, I guess. So, yeah, it's math, a lot of math. Happy Wednesday, Anand. Nice to see you, man. I hope you're doing well with the Sportsnet stuff. It says, same, had a busy morning working from home this afternoon, so chill to have a work along. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about working from home, right? Is that it's kind of a good, nice thing to be to chat a little bit uh, and get some work done, hanging out with folks. As much as can't say I miss going into an office or anything like that. Working from home, especially when my wife's at work, because she works from home most of the time, but on Wednesdays she has to go in and stuff. That can get a little bit, a little bit lonely at times when I have to like hunker down and I can't go out and talk to people. It is a lot. Anand says it's fun. Did game over yesterday too. I saw that, buddy. Early morning this week, and then back to evening. Yep. Yeah. Oh, I see Hunter Dillon's here. Hunter, how you doing, man? Yeah. Tough. It's tough. Transitioning between mornings and evenings, and but working in sports is great. It's a really fun thing to do. However, the hours are weird. It's just you can't really get around it. There's not much that you can do about it. Hunter says, "Hey Andrew, sorry I've been missing game over recently. Life's been crazy. Listen, man, I totally feel you on that one. Life has been absolutely insane for the last little while here as well. Sometimes I don't even know what to do when I wake up in the morning. Like the amount of stuff that we have on our plates, like especially as parents, like I've been talking about it a lot lately about like um what makes sense for like how we structure our society and like what doesn't. One of the things that I've come around to is like the number one currency in your life. I know everybody talks about money all the time, and money is important for how we structure our society, but time is your currency. Sebastian, how's it going, man? It says, is this where all the white people at? I mean, yeah, I guess so. Me as well. Me anyway. Ian Boisvert is here. Wait, this isn't the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal stream. You're right. It's not. Sorry, man. Not as exciting. Tech Show says, yeah, and moreover, my daughter starts kindergarten. I think it's the translation. Yep. So I prefer to be close. Yeah, 100%, man. That is a tough time. Although, I will say, I have greatly enjoyed the transition to school. There's a lot of stuff that you have to worry about with school. Like, there's constant messages home, and you do have to be on top of things for different theme days and all that stuff. But for the most part, kids are actually more tired. They're not having a nap like at daycare. And when they get home, they're happy to see you. You know, not that they weren't at daycare either, but school's pretty good. And it's kind of fun also just to watch the kids grow and learn stuff. You know, it is incredible what they're capable of. The speed with which they learn, it is really, really cool. So watching your kid grow, I got to tell you, it's one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. Maybe the coolest. Sebastian says, never enough hours in a day, man. If we got one extra hour a day, feel winning the lottery. Yeah. Oh, it would feel like winning the lottery. Yeah, extra hour would be great. I find that's one of the things that like I'm trying to not streamline, but get a little bit more efficient in my time in how I do things. But oh, okay, Keksha's going to daycare, not kindergarten. 9 months old. Wow, yeah, you're in it right now. You're in the sleep deprivation zone. Hey, that's really fun. Uh, it's tough. Daycare time. Be ready to be sick all the time. That's the biggest thing from the first year of daycare. You're gonna be sick all the time. I don't miss that. We're still sick a fair amount just because like the kids get sick, but yeah, it's really tough. All right, math. Sorry, guys. Ian Bover says the hybrid life has worked for me. I was fully remote until June when I got a new job. I needed it. World got too small. 2 days a week in the office is the best mix for me. Yeah, I feel like it's all about like what works for you, right? And what works for your lifestyle. I find even working from home where you can get stuff done while working with two kids and just the amount of time I have to sink into the business, like we are so behind everything. Everything. Like I went back to my parents' house over the holidays, and just like the amount of effort they put in, like cleaning stuff, it's like having everything look a certain way. We are a mess. We are such a mess because at the end of the day, like when you've got kids, right, and you've got work and you've got all this stuff to do, you want to also take care of yourself. What are you gonna cut from your time, right? Is it gonna be your time with your kids? No, you're not gonna cut that. You can't cut the work stuff because you got to pay the bills. Are you gonna cut like taking care of yourself, like your physical activity? And I did that forever. I stopped last year and got really motivated, and I'm not cutting that. I'm sure as hell not cutting that. I need my exercise. That's been really great. Oh, Audie's here. Nice, Audie. How you doing, man? Uh, no, okay. Joe says, oh yeah, second one. I know about the sick all the time. Oldest is 2. Oh, you're on the second one too. I gotta tell you, the toughest part of our lives, like my wife and I, is definitely the first year of having a second. And I'm sure having a third is really difficult, but I remember thinking that it was going to be twice as hard having the second kid. You know, we're prepared for that. We're prepared for that. And then it was like 5 times. Just is such a strain, And especially if you don't have a lot of family close, like we don't, uh, you end up basically one parent is the primary for each kid, right? And because of breastfeeding, Miles, our youngest, was very attached to his mom or their mom, and Miles or Dylan became like my number one priority around the house, and it's great, but you know, mom misses the oldest. Dad kind of gets stuck not being as involved with the youngest as they were with the first one. You can no longer both be in it, right? Or like tag team out for a stretch. It's like both of you are on one or the other almost all the time. They need a lot of attention. Oh, Tan. No, I'm sorry, Tanny Hockey. I can't add you to the Instagram because I don't have the audio going on that, so I can't hear from there. I can only hear from the side. So if you want to jump in our Discord server, man, and sign up for a free account on Patreon, if you check any of my socials, the links are all there. You can do that and jump in the voice chat on Discord. Anybody's free to do that if they're on our Patreon. We have a room in there if you want to join. I believe, let me just check. It is called the Patron Live Chat Room. So I am in there right now. If you join our Discord, sorry, you will see that I am live in that channel called Patron Live Chats, and you can join and you can hang out with us. You can turn on your mic and we can chat, but whatever you want. Actually says same exact situation. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's also it's a real strain on your marriage too because you're both dealing with very different things and you're not seeing the same challenges and you miss time with each other because a lot of times young kids, like they need to be separated and calmed down. It's not really that many full family events that first. We're getting to it now where like on the weekends we get to sleep in a little bit and the kids will wake up and play with each other and we get a good amount of time before they fight. But that first stretch, man, it's tough. It's really tough and we don't talk about it enough. Audie, join the YouTube. How's it going, man? I hope you're doing well. Audie also just had their first kid. So he's in the shit too. Although two is tougher than one, but the first one is a wake up call. You think you know what goes into it, and then you don't, because you cannot know until you're in it how all encompassing it is, how big of a life. There's just no way. So something to keep in mind for anybody who wants to have kids. I would say like encourage people to have kids because if you want them, they're great. Kids are fantastic people, but you have to want it. Like anybody who says that they don't want kids, I think anybody who pressures them to have kids is certifiable. The last thing that you want is to have a child in this world with a parent that isn't 150% in. It just doesn't make any sense. Audie says learning lots about being a dad and being a better partner. It's so worth it though. It so is. Yeah, 100%. Especially if it's what you want, right? And being a better partner, that's been like a whole journey after we had kids as well, because you've got to figure out a way to give more. I remember when we got married and there was a lot of talk about, you want it to be both partners put in 50% and you get up to 100, but that's not really how it works. You both put in 100% and then you have kids and you realize you have to put in even. It's really, really tough, but yeah, it is worth it. And the rewards you get out of it are life changing. I think my wife and I are closer today than we've ever been, and we've been together since 2003, December 2003. Hunter Dillon says, "Oh, duh, that I'm subbed over here." Hey, everyone, how's it going, Hunter, man? Yeah, Hunter was commenting on Instagram too. Yeah, anybody who's joining on Instagram, if you go on the YouTube link that's linked in there, it'll be a better stream. You'll have higher quality, and probably better quality audio as well because it's going in through this mic instead of the crappy, broken iPhone mic. Something to deal with. Berkshire says yes, or yeah, I have a friend that wants to wait a bit, and his girlfriend want one now, and wants to explain how kids are great. I can't. She's right. It's freaking awesome, but you need to want it. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, we've had a few friends, my wife and I, who say like we scare them off from being a parent, and because we're trying to be really real with people, right? Like the sleep deprivation is crazy, and especially if you get a kid with like any sort of problems. And we've been very very lucky. I have asthma, I have allergies. So far, knock on wood, neither kid has those issues. So we've been very lucky in that side of things, but there's like some neurospiciness that runs in our family, myself included. So that is something that whenever you're looking at like parenting advice, if your kid isn't like if your kid is neurotypical, yeah, a lot of those parenting stuff, those advice things work, right? Like with ours, I remember there's all these advice things that go around, and it's like if you're having trouble getting out of the house in the morning to like get to daycare on time, instead of asking them to put their shoes on, be like, oh, do you want to put on your shoes first or your jacket first? And with both of our kids, that doesn't work because you give them a choice, and they like the idea of a choice, but then they're like, neither. I don't want to do that. They just they find a way through all of these little tricks that parents come up with. It's not as simple as that. Kids are smart, man. They figure you out so quick. You're constantly adapting to figure out, where to go from there, how to figure out where to get the kid to where they need to go to be at the right time or whatever. Uh, Continue doing math. What do you guys think of the Habs lately? I've been shocked. I made a lot of predictions earlier this year about what was going to happen coming out of that really rough start, and I thought I was being like very cautiously optimistic. You want to be a little bit optimistic because hey, you're still talking about hockey, you're still talking about people's passions and all that, but they are so much better right now than I expected them to be. It's been really fun to watch, and honestly, I'm here for it because after 3 years of not that great, it's very fun to be watching them play. I'm enjoying the parenting chats. We don't get to talk so much about that stuff. A little bit. I bring stuff in. I feel like I use a lot of the parenting techniques that I've learned over the last 7 years in how I talk about the team. That's one of my favorite things about Marty St. Louis, actually, is I find he uses like gentle parenting techniques to talk about his players and how he manages. And I really enjoy it. I think it's very progressive from an NHL standpoint, where for the most part, the way that coaches are conditioned to speak about their players, like, yeah, they're adults for sure, but they're still people, a lot of them very young and still developing. Yeah, coach. I think they're going the way of the dodo. I think Marty St. Louis is the new breed. And whether or not you think he's great from like like a tactics perspective or not, that's less relevant than I just think he's a different style of coach. And he's probably not going to be the best of that style of coach because he's just learning. But this is his first real coaching gig. Before this, he was coaching kids team. So there's lots that he's learning, just like he's asking a lot of the other players. Uh, but overall, I've been really impressed with his approach to the game and like where he's trying to head things to. Buddy, I hope you guys are sleeping all right. I know it hasn't been that long, but for us, the first was a really good sleeper, so we got really, really lucky. And then that tricked us, and the second one was not. That was the week. We like each kid has their own challenges, but it was really, really tough with the second kid, and you start realizing how tough things actually are. Not even outnumbered, just says a recurrent question is does Martin St. Louis get a veteran assistant this summer for the next phase? What's your opinion on that? I think when they're ready, they have to, right? I don't think there's enough tactical experience and understanding of game management on that bench overall. I think there's a lot of progress that's been made this year, especially over the last several weeks. Since Line came back, like things have really been impressive. And I didn't get to watch the game last night against Utah. I saw that the Canadians didn't necessarily play like better than Utah, but I did see that they're finding ways to win. And over the last stretch, they have been very, 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 very against very good teams too. Is using. Oh, Denny's here. Yeah, I know it was. They weren't great in the first. I think they took a penalty right away, right? Second, third, they had control. Yeah, I mean, it's rare for a team to ever control a whole. Right? Even the best. Usually, things kind of go back and forth. I find that's one of the things that I like about Michael Blake McCurdy's shot charts that he does. The ones that snake down like that, and it kind of shows you like who has control over what part of the game, like how the flow goes. I guess you'd call it like them. Uh, I find that super interesting. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily tell you that much about the game, but I find it interesting just as a like taking a step back and looking how the game went kind of thing. See what drove what kind of pressure. I find that really. Mitchu says last night's game felt like the season in a microcosm, starting terrible and then finishing strong. I mean, I hope that they can continue building on this. I don't know if they can manage to continue this level of play because the results that they've had since they traded for Alexandre Carrière are incredible against really, really strong teams. So that's like if they can continue to do that, they're a top team, which is I don't believe that right now. But a lot of things have slotted into place for them. The biggest piece of all has Hudson. Obviously, seeing Suzuki bounce back as well is great, but Lane Hudson coming in his rookie year and straight up trashing every hater that could have possibly said anything about him when the Canadians drafted him. And until then, like too small, third pairing guy. There's a lot of people who look really silly right now. A lot of people. And I'll be the first to admit that I did not think that Lane Hudson would be this successful in his first season. But damn, man, that kid can play hockey. He can play. Matthew says credit goes to Doc. Man, it's so nice to see Doc playing with confidence. So nice to The Hudson and Pronman memes are fun. Yeah, I feel bad for Corey Pronman. The thing about it, like prospect writers have like the worst job in hockey because you've got to evaluate the most like how would you call it? Like the most risky situation. Like you have the least information and you've got to project years ahead and you have no control over the player, whether they are an issue that could like derail their own development or the team. Because some teams are very good at development and some teams aren't. And you you just got to sit there on what you wrote that people can bring back 10 years later when this player didn't actually, you know, work out or maybe they're way better than you thought. It sucks. It's a really thankless job in a lot of ways. Not necessarily at the time. I feel like prospect writers get a lot of good interaction and stuff while the draft is going on. But then, like years later, when people go back and pick through their writings, when they have to write about like literally hundreds of players, like, oh, you were wrong about this one. Like, yeah, they're gonna be. It's too broad. Then he says, make sure you watch the extended highlights. There were several sick goals. Yeah, I watch them with the kids now when we get home from school because they don't get to watch the whole games, but they do enjoy watching the highlights. I like Dylan has gotten kind of into hockey cards, but he's much more into Pokemon cards. Cool, Pokemon. But he's got a friend now at school named, I don't want to name them. That's not cool. Kids on. But he's like trading Pokemon cards or trading hockey cards, his hockey cards for Pokemon cards. Like every day he comes home with like 2 different ones and they've got this whole little system going on. And I was telling him that I'm kind of proud of the fact that he can trade away cards because when I was a kid, like I loved hockey cards, loved like superhero cards and all that stuff, but I could not give them. Like I did not want to. Not part of my the fabric of my being was not giving away collectible stuff. It was or like trading stuff. It was I want to collect it and store it and organize it. Like I still have all of my hockey cards from when I was a kid, and they're organized to ask how people didn't notice. But it's like organized by team, and each one is like my favorite player on the team and all of their cards, then like the next favorite player. The whole thing. All the teams. I guess that would have been before the expansion in the late 90s, so a lot of teams, but not as many as now. Keksho says, team learn how to rebuild by watching others. Like Habs don't want to be Buffalo. One thing others should learn about the Habs rebuild, assuming it's successful, but I think it will, is having a Martin St. Louis type coach. Yes, I totally agree. I think you look at teams like Buffalo who tore it down probably a little bit too much, and it doesn't pay off. It really doesn't. I understand the idea of it because you want to make sure that you're getting as much as possible assets to build with. But if you tear it down and there's no veteran players to kind of guide those young players as they break in, or if you don't have something like some sort of structure in there to support them, I feel like it's a really tough situation. It's hard to pull out of it, right? And as much as the way that the Canadiens collapsed after that 2021 run to the Cup final, I think it really benefits that a lot of the young players who are on the team who are going to be core pieces going forward had that run. They've felt success, so then they can impart that and talk about like the sacrifices that it takes to be successful in the playoffs to the young players, kind of shepherd them along. Like as much as Suzuki and Caulfield are young, they're also young veterans who've gone to a Stanley Cup final, right? And you've got Brendan Gallagher in there who, there are personal stuff with Brendan Gallagher, things that he said that I'm not a huge fan of, but as a hockey player, can you find a better example of somebody who works their tail off every single night that does everything possible to help their team win? Of course not. And then you got Mike Matheson. Hi, Alex. Nice to see you on Instagram there. You've got, sorry, what was I saying? Oh, Mike Matheson, who is like, if there's somebody in better shape in the NHL, I don't know who it is. Maybe somebody who has like a natural physique that allows them to do more than Mike Matheson. But the amount of time that guy spends in the gym, the amount of ice time he can play and not look tired, the way that he can lead a rush and then be first back on the back check, it's nuts. It's nuts. And there are things to pick apart with Matheson as a player, but as a person and a teammate, I really think he's a phenomenal example. Hey, game over Edmonton. I have the same with my hockey cards organized by teams. Also have a binder of NBA cards from 1979-80 that a friend gave me for my 6th birthday. Heck yeah, Avery. You know what I have somewhere in Edmonton? Parents don't throw anything out. I have. Did any of you guys ever get, way back in the day, if you're old enough, the I think it was Sports Illustrated for Kids magazine? I got that for a while when I was a kid, and they had like card packs at the back where it was like 9 cards and you had to bend them and like tear them down in all different sports and stuff. I still have all of those. Those are pretty cool. But when I was a kid, I was like a card obsessive. Like I was the annoying kid who would go to the card store and like try to haggle, 5 years old. So I have some pretty crazy cards that the guy in Moose Jaw who owned the card counter couldn't say no to the cute 5-year-old. So I've got like some really nice Mario Lemieux and Yarmer Yager cards. I've got some I think I got like a Magic Johnson card that might be worth something. It's like put in plastic somewhere. I don't think it's graded, but yeah, there's some fun stuff. I guess fun stuff that you can find in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and I don't know how good that. Plus, everything that came out in the early '90s is worthless now. It was the time where they wanted to like push collectibles a lot, and a lot of those companies were failing, so they just pumped out like 5 million special edition everything, and because there's so many, worth anything. Avery still has the SI for kids. Yeah, I mean, Sports Illustrated is in shambles, right? And the fact that there's nothing for kids now, it does suck. I don't really, I don't know what there is today for kids sports content. It's like consistent. So if anybody knows, let me know. Because in terms of like hockey coverage and that stuff, I'm not sure. Like something that speaks to kids, something that gives kids a voice in how they like take in sports or any of that. There's not that much out. So if you know, let me know because I'd love to allow my kids to ingest some different sports content that is built for them. Maybe that's something that in the future we can do with Game Over. It's just that right now we have to focus so much on what we're actually trying to accomplish in the moment that it's just not a good time to try to expand to things that we don't fully understand yet. We want to make sure that we're not, getting too big for our britches, expanding to a point where we're in trouble. Under Dylan says Nickelodeon airs NFL games, but as far as hockey, yeah, I'm sure there's lots more for hockey and basketball. Fortunately, or not for hockey, sorry, for basketball and football, but for hockey, it's just too niche, unfortunately, which kind of sucks because I feel like accepting that what you're doing is niche is kind of the NHL's failure in their marketing. Everything is built to market to people who are already hockey fans, and some of it's great. Like they've had great ad campaigns in the past, but now, should we really even be talking about Original Six anymore? Who cares? Hey, Graham's on the Instagram. How's it going, Graham? As usual, for anybody who's on the Instagram, if you jump over to the YouTube, it's better stream, higher quality audio, and actually don't even. But yeah, if you enjoy Game Over, enjoy hockey coverage that's built for you, for young people, for people more on the left side of things. Because let's face it, a lot of sports content is like hyper right wing. You've got what's his face with the gray hair on DFO, like out there pounding his chest for genocide. We're not going to do that here. We're going to talk about good stuff, try to build something that is more representative of the populace. I find this is one of the things with running a business that I'm the least comfortable with, is like speculating on how much money will come in later. Like, I mean, yeah, we can do that, but I tend to estimate so conservatively because I don't want to overestimate. And that's like the big trouble. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you don't actually, uh, you think you're in a better position. Avery says, I also wonder if a Sportsnet or TSN is just saying too expensive to a cartoon star. Yeah, I know that Disney did that Big City Greens game. I think you can watch it live on Plus when it's happening. Yeah, it's kind of like one-off stuff, right? Like once every few months kind of thing, or once a year even. And that's just not enough for kids. You got to give kids something that they can dig into on their own. Um, gotta almost have like a kids app now. Everything's on screen. What can you do? Kids are really good at figuring that stuff out too. Gotta kind of trust them a little. Yeah, a lot of things that are genuinely good. I think a lot of large corporations, and I think that's something that we don't talk about enough. From a business standpoint, but also like a societal standpoint, is one thing I've talked about a lot with people since I launched this company is like risk assessment, right? And a lot of groups that help build companies or like help entrepreneurs as they start don't want to touch media because they just think it's too risky. And the thing that I keep on coming back to, and it's the same thing with like spending on infrastructure, right? Where like politicians don't ever want to be the person who spends big on infrastructure because then they have the bill that everyone can point to and like, look at all this debt, look at all this debt. But the opportunity cost of not investing in yourself, in things that you're building for your country, is way, way, way bigger than the sticker shock of actually investing. Like if we just let things fall apart and don't put in the money or the time necessary to build new things as society changes, as we continually tackle like challenges as a species, we're screwed. You have to invest time, have to invest capital in building something new, building something better. We should never be satisfied with anything. Tech Show says, yeah, project engineer here. Don't be too conservative on your estimation. It's a classic mistake. Aim at the average. Might be, or average might be over, might be under. Yeah, I agree. It's so uncomfortable for me because I was always taught growing up that like if you're building a budget, you should like be very liberal with your expenses, overestimate how much everything's going to cost, and then underestimate how much you're going to bring in, just to kind of give yourself leeway, right? And that just hasn't really been easy, to get away from that thinking when you're building stuff. Because also when you're building like a business plan and stuff, if you're hyper conservative in your projections, I think a lot of investors are going to see that and say like, oh, they're not confident in what they can do. And this is my fourth time trying to build something from scratch. And the first time was Habs Eyes on the Prize. That wasn't from scratch, right? I took over from Kevin Van Steendelaar, and before that, Robert Lefebvre, who had run the site. It was associated with SB Nation, so we had a lot of infrastructural support built in. They launched a new website design, all this stuff to help us grow, and it really, I came in at the right time. But I also put in a ton of work in adding people, adding different voices, uh, building an editorial process for the website, because that was like the old west days of blogging where somebody would write something and then publish it immediately. But I wanted things to go through an editorial process where we went through, make sure things look nice, pick the right image, do some SEO and all that stuff, and then like a really hard social push. And we grew crazy. Like when I started at Eyes on the Prize, we were doing about 82,000 to 86,000 paid. And then when the NHL came back in January of 2013, we did 300K, which was like an immediate bump. I was like, oh, people must be excited about the NHL, but this isn't going to last. And then within a year, we were at 650K. And then when I left 2.5 years after I took over, we were doing like 1.2 to 1.5 million a month. And a lot of that just came down to like Mark and myself and the amazing team that we put together. We're just on it. We were really dedicated to building great content and, making sure that we had strong opinions that were defendable. And it turned into a behemoth. And even now, where like I don't know if Eyes on the Prize has like what I call it, like elite, like heavy hitter writer. Like Mark and I wrote a lot. Like I worked for EOTP for 2.5 years, a little bit longer than that because I was there before I was a manager, and I wrote like 3,000 articles. That's a lot. That's a lot. Not all of them were crazy huge ones, but a lot of them were. And I don't know if that kind of work load is as common as Sphere now. But after that, I got hired by SportLogic. I built that media division. Kind of like built the reputation for the stats as well. Was challenging, but like really cool. I got to work with some different people in the NHL, build some good contacts. And then after that, got cut out from under me during COVID. I had to start again, and I had to kind of revamp what I was trying to do and see like what I wanted to do, because it sucks to get laid off, right? And to go from like blogging style where you're making almost no money to like an actual full-time job where you are making money, and then that cut out from you is very tough. But yeah, after that, I kind of took some time, and then watching the 2021 playoffs during COVID, when there was only like 3,000 people allowed in the Bell Center. So like HFTV, I think around the same time started to become really popular, talking to fans outside the Bell Center. And I was like, we don't really have great post-game content. We have radio shows, but like on TV, it just cuts to highlights or cuts to something else. RDS does, obviously Antichambre, but now that RDS is the local broadcast and not the all 82 broadcast, I feel like they don't have that same natural pull where people just stick around, right? Because some games it's going to be TVI instead. So I wanted to create something that, was better than the other content available for post-game shows, but also had like a different voice that spoke to a different generation of Habs fans. And then we expanded it out to all of Canada. And it is really special, honestly. I think the biggest takeaway that I have from like Game Over in general is it's damn fun. We built that together at SDPN, and then SDPN had to focus on their own finances, and we got let go as well. And now we're starting over again and trying to build up again. It's crazy, try to build something for the first time, but I feel much more prepared this time, even though I've got so much more on my plate this time. It's different when you're at like the top of the pecking order, right? Especially if you're not incredibly wealthy, because you got to find money somewhere fast. Bernardo Sunier, how's it going, man? Says, Andrew, do you think Hudson has average compete? No, I think Hudson compete. I think Lane Hudson is an incredibly hard. I don't think it's even possible to be as smart on the ice as he is without being an hard work. You just got to practice so much. I don't know how else to put it other than it's just incredible what he is. A very, very special player. I knew he was going to be special just talking to different scouts around drafted him. And as time has gone on, it's only become more and more apparent. Incredibly, I think he's a huge linchpin in the rebuild, and him being so good so fast changes everything. It really does. To have that like top end puck moving, so key, so key, and it allows Gooley to slide down. It also takes pressure off of David Reinbacher when he heals up and hopefully gets a chance to get into the NHL at the end of the year here. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll need some time in the American. That's not a bad thing. Still is so annoying. Avery talking with the audience. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I missed. One thing too with the post game shows like us with Game Over, it's evolving in terms of how they engage the audience. Used to be about taking calls, but now with YouTube, Twitch, you can talking with the audience. Yeah, exactly. Right. You don't have to cut anybody off. They can just keep contributing, and I think that's one of the coolest things about Game Over, especially right now where I'm so busy with the business stuff that I'm just straight up not as informed as I need to be to do the job well. Like I do it well enough because I have experience and I can watch a game and analyze it like problem. But in terms of like trends and things, and like if somebody asks me like how a player is playing over the last 5 weeks, I'm gonna have to do some research first because I just haven't been able to watch enough hockey. But with the chat involved, you can kind of lean on your community, right? And you can get opinions, and then you can go back and forth. And I really enjoy it. I think that's one of the coolest things about Game Over is just that interactivity. And I think that's where things are going, right? I don't know if like internet streaming is the future of broadcasting, just because, especially if you're doing like the actual sport, the amount of information that you can put over that live stream to keep the quality of the stream high and everything synced up, it's just limited, and it's tough to have everyone have that crazy good internet necessary for that to be like your main mode of taking in or main mode of digesting media. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised as like bandwidth increases and you know you get less and less barriers to doing this kind of thing. Like there are costs, 100% in terms of putting up Game Over, but most of our costs are just in labor costs, right? And that's because we really are motivated to pay people. There's business costs, of course, but if you can afford a webcam and a good microphone and your internet is decent, like you can hop on one of these sites and streaming and find an audience. Now you kind of got to be good, but that's never stopped anybody before. Next, spitting chicklets. Back and forth with the audience is really key. It really is. I think honestly, that's like there's a part of it that yeah, it's young people more than older people, so they want to like be contributing to what they're partaking. But I just think it's just better. You build a community through it. It's not talking at people; it's talking to people. And I think once we get to that point, it really really does help. Really really does. That can't be. I love when I change something on Excel. Oh, Diego! Oh my God, it's so nice to see you, man. I miss you. As you can see, there's a reason why I haven't been in to get my hair cut. Diego is a barber at Olympus Hair Studio in Montreal. I think he's still at. Not that Diego. You can give a message on Instagram and I'll correct that. But I used to go to Diego all the time for my hair, and then it got so thin that no need anymore. The razor. Hockey from Home says, "Hey Andrew, how's it going? Nice to see you here. Anybody, if you have anything you want to chat about, drop it in the chat. All good. We can talk about anything. We can talk about hockey, talk about life, cancer, life, the world, and everything. Got a book recommendation, a movie recommendation. Love that. I've been watching Interior Chinatown, and I'm not entirely sure what to make of it yet, but it's really interesting. Like, it's just a very different conceit of how to do a show in a way. If you haven't checked it out, like look up what it's about. I kind of thought it was like a by the numbers action show, but it's a really weird concept. It's like you're in a show that is also in a show, so you're following like the background characters. Hockey says, "Why did you decide to go live?" Just chatting, man. Just figured I've got some stuff I've got to do on the computer here. I've got another like 20 minutes before I start ready to get the kids, and I figured I'd just jump on here and chat with anybody who shows up because why not, right? It's just a little work along stream. Nothing special. No big announcement or anything. Just having a good time chatting with cool people. I like changed one thing in the Excel sheet on like the cumulative cash flow, and it was like, oh, you've gone from negative cash flow to $800,000. Nope. Nope. Even if we are more successful than I could possibly imagine, I don't think we're gonna have $800,000 in cash on hand. Just guessing. That just seems way, way too high for a media company. How's your workday, Hockey from Home? Hope you're having a good one. You're a girl, by the way? Oh, sorry about that. I apologize. I got to start working on not automatically saying, assuming gender. It's a work in progress, but happy to have you here, Hockey from Home. Are you Habs fan? Can't really see your profile picture. OBS very well. Feel free to drop something in the chat. The math ain't mathin', folks. Hector says, super nerdy here. I'm proud. Currently watching season 1 of Critical Role. I've heard so many good things about Critical Role. Hockey from Home, you're a student in class now. Listen, maybe don't listen in class. Pay attention to your class. Your name's Victoria. Caps, Leafs, and Knights. Profile pic is a signed Ovi puck. Oh, I love that. Love that. That's also like a new thing. I find there's like there used to be a lot more pushback against it, but the idea of like people having multiple favorite teams. I remember growing up, that was just like you could rank, but you had a favorite team and that's it. Like you weren't allowed to cheer for multiple teams. I find that's something that's far more common in woman fans is they have like players that they like and they attach to those players, which is kind of how I always was. I liked the Canadians because I like loved Patrick Waugh as a kid. Just stayed there. But yeah, the idea of having multiple favorite teams that you can cheer for, it's like very foreign to older hockey folks. But the younger groups, it's like you have your favorites that go around and you just watch more hockey. I think it's great, honestly. I really do think it's maybe tougher in the playoffs if they play each other. Avery says I was going to say off that Andrew. It's wild how in the U.S. in sports media, guys like Stephen A. Smith make more cash than an average NHLer. Yeah, it ain't like that here. There are guys who make decent money. Like the Pierre LeBruns, the Elliot Friedmans, the Bob McKenzie back in the day, but the limit is much lower. I don't think there's a single person in Canadian hockey media, sports media, that cracks a million. I'd be very shocked. Very shocked. Like even Ron McLean, now that he's not being paid by like the government of Canada through even his salary can't be that high. But a Canadian company, no way. Yeah, I know. I mean, Avery and I were talking when we were when I was in Edmonton. I met up with our Game Over Edmonton folks. You're saying that like different companies, when he had an agent, were like, no, no, I'm not going to hire you. No agents allowed. Like the idea that even looking after your own interests is a red flag for that's a huge problem. Metu says, random comment, Skeleton Crew is fun. Yeah, it is fun actually. I expected nothing and decent. We've been kind of watching it with the kids a little bit because it's about kids. We watched the first couple episodes to see if it was okay. And yeah, it's pretty good. Avery says game over is greater than paying attention in class. Yeah. And Victoria says, I watch YouTube during class, and my friend from YouTube said he appreciates it as it makes the day go by faster. He streams for hours. I support all Canadian teams on my channel, though, since I'm Canadian. Yeah, I get that. And yeah, I think a lot of people are like that, right? They like to have not necessarily the distraction, but like the background noise and just feel like they're part of something during the day, especially when you're a student and a lot of your time is spent like studying quietly in the library, kind of stuff. Gotta actually have some good. If you had to pick a favorite, Victoria, is it going to be Caps with the Ovi puck? Yeah, you can have me on for a season preview next year. Absolutely. You can DM by Discord. Yep. You can send me a message. My DMs are open on Blue Sky as well. And you can always send an email to Andrew at thegameovernetwork.com. That's my company email. So always open to joining different shows and meeting new people. I think one of the things you kind of have a responsibility to do when you're in sports media, because it's especially in Canada as opposed to the States, but in hockey in general, even in the States, like it is not a high earning career. It's a very cool career, but it's not like it's very difficult to break into, especially for young. There's not really many paying jobs. People expect you to do a lot of stuff for free. The amount of skill sets that you have to do somewhat competent is wide. It's very varied. So I've always seen it as the people who helped me when I was breaking in will always have a special place in my heart. And I owe it to young people who are trying to break into now or just doing something for fun, and want to work on their craft and have fun. I like going on young or new people's shows or chatting with them. If they want to send me an article that I can go through and proofread, ask them questions about, or one of the things that I was thinking about offering for Game Over is for the network, I guess, is if people want to join like some kind of class on how to watch hockey and analyze effectively, things like that. Like, what should you be looking for to like increase your understanding of the game? And there's a lot of things that we understand watching the game that are intuitive in like we're taking in the information, but we don't necessarily know how to process and prioritize that information. And I think that's where, when you talk to scouts and when you talk to people who are like high level in hockey analysis, you start to learn things and you watch things a little bit different, right? Like one of the things that I look for a lot since I started with Sport Logic is loose puck recoveries. So it's one of the most common things that happens in hockey. You often hear people talk about face-offs, right? Especially in media. Coaches like to focus on it because it's something that they have an amount of control over. They can choose the player taking the face-off sometimes. They can choose like handedness. They have a lot of data on those face-offs, or at least somewhat. It's not great data, but Sport Logic has. But overall, face-offs are given this like outlandish importance compared to every other puck battle in the game because it starts at a neutral state. But it's just one. And if there's like, I don't know, 50, 60 face-offs in a game, that's cool, but there's like 1,000 loose puck recovery. And every single battle that you engage in, whether it's a face-off or a puck is loose or it's a contested recovery with two players getting there at the same time, it's all about possession, right? And whether or not you can get. And that's one of the things that Patrice Bergeron was really was if there's a loose puck, he's going to win that battle almost always. And the players who can win those battles, I'll tell you, a lot more effective than great face-off. It's great to have the puck off the face-off, but your chances of continuing to keep that puck outside of special teams are actually pretty low. The puck changes hands a lot, so you got to be good at getting it back. Yeah, I cannot comment my email. Of course I can. Sorry about that, Victoria. I didn't. Mechu says, I'm excited for the skills the coming generation will bring. Maybe the like backhanded one-timers. That would be crazy. And making plays with the puck suspended in air at will. Yeah, skills and strategies beyond my imagination. Yeah. It is crazy to see what's been accomplished in terms of skill plays in the NHL. It's 30 years. I mean, you look back, we always talk about like increased scoring and everything, and I understand that people want more goals, and I want more goals too. But I grew up as a goalie, and I've always been obsessed with goalies. So when you compare goalies from 30, 40 years ago to now, the evolution is staggering. And just the strategies, movement, the control, the tracking, like the amount that's gone into goaltending is insane. So the fact that we're seeing like scoring increases now, even though the goaltending, I know maybe folks think like there isn't the greatness at the top necessarily, but the entirety of NHL goaltending is so much better now than it was 10 years ago even. It is really, really impressive. And the fact that players are still finding ways to get there, it's really, really impressive. Victoria says favorite player is Ovi, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Max Sasson. If I want the other game over networks, can I DM you and you send me their socials? Absolutely. You can also, if you just go to, are you on Blue Sky? Blue Sky is probably the best place because we have like a feed that has all of our stuff included. But yeah, if you send me a message, I can send you contact information for anybody on any of the game because they'll be happy to jump on and talk hockey. Offer members only streams for here when you get monetized. Yeah, it's part of the plans. There's a pretty tough lock on monetization on YouTube. It takes a while, especially with live streaming. If we were doing videos, we probably have been there by now already. But in pushing live content, it's Kextra says, yeah, I analyzed some data and face off, but not the special unit. Have close to no effect, but the effects skyrocket on PP. Yes, big time. I mean, think about it just on the power play, right? If the penalty killers win the face off, that's 30 seconds gone between having to go back and get the puck because you're probably going to clear it and then enter the zone, which is another difficulty because once you have to go all the way back behind your own net, or even back into your own zone if your goalie jumps out or whatever, you now have to deal with a group of defenders who have had time to set up a trap to enter the zone. So you can just ram it in with a slap shot and rim it around the boards, try to get it. But then again, you're in a puck battle. You got to make sure that you win that or that you don't go too hard and it comes right out the other side. There's all these things that can go wrong just from a lost faceoff. It does matter on special teams. From home, Victoria says, my friend does a wild analytics show. Love that. Minnesota Wild are having a great season. And Avery says, it's wild. Always admired Dominic Hasek lasting as a pro goalie in various leagues for 20. It is absolutely crazy. It makes no sense, especially with all the injuries that he dealt with. Like, pretty impressive. Pretty damn impressive. Victoria, DM me on Discord. Fantastic. All right, I'll get back to you after I get the kids today. Won't be able to do it. I've probably got another 8 minutes, and then I got to check out here today. Thanks everyone for joining me with this work along stream. I'm gonna try to do this more often. I have to balance it a little bit because I'm also trying to offer some office hours through our Discord for our private channels for the folks inside Game Over. But I want to continually be part of the community. I'm not necessarily hosting. I hope this is like a fun idea. If it's not, then all right, folks. This is oh, that makes sense. Yeah, Victoria, if you want to drop the YouTube link in the chat, I think, or you can send it on DM. Catch you later. Yeah, I'll check out your friend's channel. Absolutely. Thanks for DMing the link, Victoria. All right, folks, I'm gonna check out here. Thanks for joining the work along stream. It was pretty darn fun, and we'll try to do it again. All right, Berkshire, this is the Game Over Network. Make sure you follow us on wherever you get your socials. We're out there anywhere, and subscribe here at the Game Over Network's channel. And if you have a specific Canadian team that you like, check out all of our channels. Click on the Game Over Network button right below this video. At the bottom of the page, you'll see all of our branded channels stuck there. Kextra says complete amateur geek here, but where do you get basic free dataset for basic? Because I don't want to steal someone else's work, but I'm in the process of building a fantasy book. Fine. That's a great question. There used to be better answers. Like, there's a lot of great data out there now, but I find there used to be more options for getting pretty robust data and like game by game data than there is now. The basic best one I find is Natural Stat Trick. Site is reliable. It takes a little bit to load, but it has a lot of basic data on everyone. You've got game by game data for players, for teams. You've got basically your whole data set between Corsi, Fenwick, shots, scoring chances, high danger chances, expected goals. Is it the best expected goals model? No. I prefer Evolving Hockey for like meticulousness of their data, I would say. The Twins down in Minnesota they're really incredible. But Evolving Hockey you do need to pay for. It's not that expensive. It's pretty cheap actually, and I would say anybody who's like really into hockey, it is definitely worth it. But Natural Stat Trick is free, very easily accessible. There's lots of different tools that you can use, including their lineup tools, so you can see like how players affect each other, which is super fun. I would play around with that first, and if you want to like pull like Excel sheets and stuff and build your own data, Natural Stat Trick is great for that. Download links on everything, and you can get like a whole season's worth of data for a player there. It's pretty great. All right, folks. We'll see you soon. I'll be live on Game Over Montreal on the weekend. I think we're gonna have a crossover stream between the Habs and Leafs. That should be really fun. I think I'm on with Dominic Jones from Toronto, which is going to be awesome. And before that, I believe Mark is hosting the next game for the Montreal Canadiens. But we've got tons of streams coming up here for all the Canadian teams. Yeah, Mark's against Dallas Stars again. And this is a tough stretch for the Canadiens. Quality of opponent. All right, but yeah, enjoy this. And hey, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out Hyperdrive Hockey on this channel. It's a fantastic show. Get all your hockey news, info, analysis, and fun in one spot. Comes out every Monday and Thursday this year. And Max Van Hoot, Daphne Malbouf, and Kev Larame are fantastic professionals in this industry. Do a fantastic. Check it out. Subscribe where you get your favorite podcasts, and I'll see you later.